everybody. Good to see you. I'm waving. Hope you're waving at me. This is our lesson for Sunday, August 23rd, and we are continuing with our story of Noah. Now, last week we got to do the animal guessing game. How'd you guys do on that? Ellie Kate told me that she got the pig one right off the bat. She remembered that I had a pig in my neighborhood. Did you? Let me know. I would love to hear from you. Send pictures, anything. If you want to do a shout out to your friends, have your parents tape it on their phone and send it to Miss Cheryl, and we'll get that on the following week. We would just love to see your faces and say hi, okay? Now, very important thing we got to get right back to. Birthdays. The birthday hat. We've had some birthdays this month. Let's see who had a birthday. Ollie had a birthday. I believe he's 7 now, I think. And Harper Dandria, happy birthday, August birthdays. We have a couple coming up, though. I want you to know these. All right. Our wonderful shepherd, Jenny Ford. Hi, Miss Jenny. Her birthday is August 27th, so we're giving a shout out to her. And then there's another special one coming up, okay? You might want to send a card for Pastor Kip, all right? It's August 31st is his birthday, August 31st. So, happy birthday to our August people, okay? Happy birthday. Got our hat. Love it. All right, now we got to get to business. We've got a lot coming up for you today. First off, I want to remind you what our theme for the year is, all right? And this will happen in all the Bible stories that we're doing for these 12 months. And that is a covenant. A covenant. This is something that you need to learn what it means. A covenant is an agreement between two people or between God and humans. It may include a promise, a condition, a penalty, and a provision. It sometimes includes a sign. A sign. Do you remember what the sign was last week for Noah? Do you remember? It's really pretty. Lots of colors. You see it in the sky? A rainbow. I love rainbows. A rainbow. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But right now, let's get to our story again. This time, we're going to go to Reverend Sandra, and she's going to do the story in a little bit of a different way, all right? All right? I think it'll be interesting for you. All right, let's hear from Reverend Sandra.
This is a story called Mrs. Noah's Patchwork Quilt. Now, you know who Noah is, and you know all about his ark, and you know that Mrs. Noah was along for the ride. Well, that's a good Bible story, and it's a real Bible story, but this is not a real Bible story. This is a fun story to go along with the real Bible story. So just enjoy it for the fun. It's just imagination, and I hope you'll enjoy it. It's interesting because it's written two different ways. One part is the person telling the story, and the other part is Mrs. Noah writing in her diary. So I think you'll be able to see the difference. Mrs. Noah's Patchwork Quilt, a journal of the voyage with a pocket full of patchwork pieces, by Janet Bolton. When Noah saw the first drops of rain, he thought it was just a passing shower, but the sky grew darker and darker. "We'd better build an ark to house the animals," he said to Mrs. Noah. "No telling how long this weather will last." So she writes, "We began sawing and planning and painting. We hammered and banged and nailed day and night." Curtains of rain streaked down from the heavens and soaked the earth. Great bolts of thunder and flashes of lightning shook the trees and frightened all the creatures. And she writes, "Our ark was finally ready. Animals from all over the world made their way to our safe haven, which would protect them from the flood. A male and female of each creature, from the smallest to the largest, settled themselves comfortably for their long stay." The finished ark was buffeted by the strong gales. It was quite watertight, but Mrs. Noah was not comfortable. She was bored. As the 40 days and 40 nights stretched out before her, she wondered what she could do to while away the time. Then she had an idea. She would make a patchwork quilt record of the animals on the ark. And she writes, "I beckoned all the animals to my cabin, 2 by 2, so I could study their likeness. The giraffes came first. They were shy and confused. There was very little headroom in the ark, and there were no tall trees. They stood silently and politely while I got out my sketch pad. As the ark sailed on the rough water, which covered all the land, Mrs. Noah worked on her quilt. First, she drew a picture of each animal on a piece of paper. She cut these pieces out and pinned them onto brightly colored or patterned cotton fabric. Then she cut around the outline or pattern to make the cloth animals. And she writes, "The cheetahs loped into my den. They were tired after their long journey from the African plains, but they were restless after being cooped up in their small space in the ark. They stretched their long limbs impatiently and stared into each other's eyes." Mrs. Noah decided how large she wanted her quilt to be. She cut a piece of cream-colored cotton cloth to that size, then cut it again into squares. She pinned each of the cloth animals onto a separate square. As she worked, she decided to add a picture of herself and Mr. Noah and a centerpiece of the ark. The polar bears had traveled from the North Pole to reach the ark. It was cold outside, and we scooped some big blocks of ice from the sea and placed them in my cabin so they would feel at home. I sketched quickly before my hands froze. I longed for the warmth of my fire. It was time to fill the backgrounds on the quilt square. Mrs. Noah rummaged through her boxes of fabric, old garments and aprons and other scraps of material. She selected colors and patterns she thought would look nice and pinned these to the squares. I thought water was nothing new to crocodiles, but as the flood covered the earth, even they made their way to the ark. At first I was worried about their big, sharp teeth, but after they told me a few snappy jokes, we became friends. Still, the storm raged. Mrs. Noah got out her sewing basket. She chose black, brown, and white thread. She sewed one square at a time. She removed the pins on each part of each animal and tucked under the edge of the fabric. Then she sewed it to the background. She continued this way until the entire square was finished. And she writes, "For my picture of the monkeys, I allowed them to swing from the ceiling rafters in my cabin. It reminded them of their own tall trees. They had seen the rising water of the flood and had swung from tree to reach the ark." Mrs. Noah glanced out of the porthole. The sky looked brighter. The rain was lighter. It was time to sew the finished quilt pieces together. Mrs. Noah laid all the squares on a big piece of unbleached cotton cloth and pinned them in place. She put the picture of the ark in the center. She used a simple hemming stitch so her stitches could be seen. And she writes, "The elephants could barely squeeze through the door of the ark. Noah had to strengthen the floor to support their weight. I laughed when I saw their friends, the birds, who had traveled with them and stuck up from their backs like strange chimneys." As the rain stopped, Mrs. Noah knew she did not have long to put the finishing touches to her quilt. While Mr. Noah sent a dove to look for dry land, she looked over every square and added little fabric details to make it look beautiful. She was careful to sew these pieces onto the quilt squares and not through the quilt itself. She writes, "The turtles had been the last creatures to reach the ark. Noah had refused to set sail until they were aboard. Now they sit so peacefully in my cabin that I wonder if they will ever leave." At last the rain stopped. The sun climbed high in the sky. One of the doves that Mr. Noah had released into the sky returned with an olive branch in its beak. Mrs. Noah put her finished quilt in a bag and with her animal friends left the ark. And she writes, "My final picture is of the two whales. They had swum beside the ark while it tossed about on the water. When it was very rough, they steadied the ark by swimming on either side. I sewed them with a rainbow to celebrate the rebirth of the world." Mrs. Noah's quilt was one of two records of the voyage on the ark. There was Mr. Noah's own journal, of course. Mrs. Noah gave the quilt as a present to her granddaughter, who eventually gave it to her granddaughter, So the tradition was carried on through the generations. I hope you enjoyed this story, this pretend story about a wonderful Bible story. Mrs. Noah had the way to tell her experience on the ark too. I wonder what your experience on the ark would have been like if you had been Noah or Mrs. Noah or one of their children or grandchildren. I wonder which animal you would choose to be if you were going on to the ark. Why don't you draw a self-portrait of either yourself as a human or as yourself as one of the animals on the ark? And you can send it to me. I'd love that. Enjoy.
Thank you, Reverend Sandra. I'm Suzanne, and today in art we're going to make it rain. Well, not really, but we are going to make something called a rain stick that makes it sound like rain. Did you know that rain sticks were from Latin America or the southern United States? And the first rain sticks were made out of cactuses or cacti. And when they died, people would cut different sections out of the cactus. And the middle would be hollow, kind of like this fun noodle. And what they would do is they would let it dry, and then they would take the needles, the little pointy things that are in the cactus, and they would break those off, and they would turn them around like a nail and hammer them back into the cactus. And then they would go find little pebbles and pour them in to the dried out cactus and put coverings on both ends, and then it would sound like rain when they moved it back and forth. Now they didn't do this to the rain stick, they just moved it real gently back and forth. And they thought if they did that over and over, it would make it rain. But I don't really know if that worked or not. But today we're going to make a rain stick so that it will sound like rain. And what we're going to need for that are several things. We need 8 things. We need, first of all, a paper towel roll. And if you don't have one of these at home, there are several things you can use. You could use a big, long wrapping paper roll, and you might be able to cut it down to the size you want. You could use, of all things, a spaghetti box, and that will work. Or you could just use a big, heavy piece of paper and roll it up, just like that, and put a piece of tape on it, and that will make your tube that you need. So whatever you have is good. So paper towel roll, you need some aluminum foil, just like in your kitchen. You need 2 pieces of paper. You need some markers or a pencil. You need tape, so whatever kind of tape you have. This is masking tape, this is painter's tape, or Scotch tape. Anything will work. You need a wooden spoon. That seems funny, but we're going to use it, okay? We need rice. If you don't have rice, you want dried rice, not the kind you've already cooked. So it's dry, or beans. Or if you have beads, maybe that you've got left over, you could use those. Or you could go outside and find tiny little pebbles, okay? Anything like that. And you need a pair of scissors. So, if you need to stop the video at any time that we're doing this, because I know we're going to go through it kind of fast, you can do that, and then we'll be there when you get back. So right now, if you need to stop and go get your supplies, you can do that. But we're going to go ahead right now, okay? So we're going to take 1 piece of paper, regular piece of paper. If you've only got paper that has lines on it, that will work too. We're going to take our paper towel roll and put it on one side of the paper, and it's going to be straight up and down, just like that. We're going to take our pencil and we're going to draw around the paper towel roll so that we end up with a circle. And you can see my circle's not perfect. It doesn't have to be. We are going to then take just our pencil and go back around the circle and make an even bigger circle, and I'll show you that. So I just went, this was our original circle, and then I just made a bigger circle all the way around it. And now we're gonna do it again on the same paper. Just go to the other side and put your paper towel roll down, draw around it, all the way around it. So now we've got 2 little circles and a bigger circle, and now we're gonna draw a bigger circle around this circle. So here we go. So now you should have a paper that looks like this, okay? What we're gonna do now is we're gonna cut these circles out, okay? Get your scissors. Here we go. So I've got 1 circle cut out. And now I'm going to cut out the other circle. And we're just going to put this paper aside. So now I've got 2 circles with a little circle in the middle. We're going to take our pencil and we're going to mark on our circle 4 lines. 1 at the top, 1 at the bottom, 1 at the side, and 1 directly across from it. So you should have a circle that looks like that, okay? And we're going to do the same thing with the other circle. 1 line at the top, 1 line at the bottom, 1 line at the side, and 1 right across from it. So you have another circle that looks like that. We're going to take our scissors, and this is important. You're going to cut from the outside just to the little circle on the inside, but no further. And do that on each one of your lines. Cut from the outside just to the little circle. Don't go any further. Okay, we've done 4 on there. We're going to do the other 4 on this one. Cut from the outside just to the inner circle, but not any further. Here we go, one more time. Once again. And here we are. Now, we're going to take one of our circles and put it on the top of our paper towel roll. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just going to smash down those pieces that you cut so they go all the way around the side. We're going to take our tape, and I've already torn some pieces off, and we're just going to tape that down all the way around. And we need that to really be taped down, so don't be afraid to use a lot of tape, because we don't want anything getting out of our roll once we get it in there. Tape it all the way around. Now, if I'm going too fast, you can just turn the video off and catch up, okay? And we'll be right here when you get back, okay? All right, so the next thing we're going to do is take our aluminum foil, and we're going to take our roll, and we're going to kind of use it as a measuring stick. So we're going to take our foil out, and we want at least as much as the roll, and then we want about half more. And we're going to tear it off. Woo. Okay. We're going to take our aluminum foil and we're going to bend it in half long ways, and we're going to smash it down so it's flat. Then we're going to start bending it. We're going to bend it and push it down. So I bent it down and pushed it down about that much, okay, maybe a ½ inch. And we are just going to turn that over, and the same size we are going to bend again. And we're going to keep doing that all the way until we've got it all folded up into a long flat piece like this, okay? See how flat it is? Yeah. So now we're going to take our wooden spoon. I told you that was going to come in handy eventually, okay? We're going to hold our spoon part in this hand, and then we're going to take our foil and start wrapping it around our spoon, okay? And then we're going to slide it off, turn it around, and wrap it the other way. And when you have it kind of wrapped, this again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to kind of unwrap it. So we're wrapping and then we're unwrapping, okay? So we're going to get it where it's in a swirl like that, kind of like a snake. Now we're going to take the snake foil and put it down in our tube. And just let it kind of fall down in there. It should fall right down and not be sticking out. We're going to measure out our rice, about 1/3 of a cup. A little more, a little less, doesn't matter. If you don't have a measuring cup, just about 3 handfuls will do. And we're going to pour that down into our paper towel roll. And you can hear it going in. So now that's why we had to tape that down so good, so that it didn't come out the bottom. Now remember that other circle that we cut? We are going to put that on top, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to smash down that extra part. We're going to get our tape and tape it all the way around. And make sure we're taping it good, because we don't want that rice to come back out. All right, tape it. Again, if you need to stop the video because I'm going too fast, you can stop the video and we'll be right here when you get back. All right, taping and taping. All right, we got it all taped. So now what happens? That sounds like rain, doesn't it? We're not quite done. We're going to take our other piece of paper that we have and we're going to put it around the outside of our paper towel roll and put some tape on it to hold it in place. And then we're going to decorate our rain sticks. And you can decorate it any way you want, with markers, with crayons. I started decorating this one, and on one side I put an arc with some rain coming down, and I could add some more raindrops coming down through here. And then when I turn it over, it's got a rainbow and a sun, and I can play it. Now you can hear it rain anytime you like. And every time you hear this rain stick or you hear the rain outside, you can remember the story of Noah.
Wow, did you make a rain stick? I hope you did. Look at this rain stick. Whoa, this is Pastor Kit's rain stick. Isn't it cool? That does sound like rain. That does sound like rain. That's cool. All right, now we have a song. Now this is a classic song. You may think it's a little kid song, but all the adults around here have been singing it all week. And we have the wonderful Trent Rutledge and his daughter Elizabeth here to sing for us, Arky, Arky. You need to know this song. Here we go.
Okay, you ready? Are you ready to go? Yeah. All right. The Lord told Noah there's gonna be a floody, floody. Lord told Noah there's gonna be a floody, floody. Get those animals out of the muddy, muddy children of the Lord. Now we gotta build a boat. The Lord told Noah to build him an arky, arky. Lord told Noah to build him an arky, arky. Build it out of gopher, barky, barky children of the Lord. All right, so we got a boat, and we got to put animals in that boat. So what animals do you want in your boat?
A goose and a tiger and a monkey.
Goose, tiger, and monkey.
Yeah.
Okay. The animals, they came in by twosies, twosies. Animals, the animals, they came in by twosies, twosies. Tigers, monkeys, and geese, and elephants, and kangaroosies, roosies, children of the Lord. And a goose too. Okay, and a goose too. Okay, now that everybody's in the boat, and a goose.
Yeah.
What happens next? It's gonna rain. So get your rain stick out. It rained and poured for 40 daisies, daisies, rained and poured for 40 daisies, daisies, almost drove those animals crazies, crazies, children of the Lord. So what happens after it rains? It stops raining, and then what comes out? The sun came out and dried up the landy, landy. Look, there's the sun. It dried up the landy, landy. Everything was fine and dandy, dandy, children of the Lord. So rise and shine and give God the glory, glory. Rise and shine and give God the glory, glory. Rise and shine and give God the glory, glory, children of the Lord. Children of the Lord. Children of the Lord.
Wasn't that great? Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Trent. I love that song. It's classic. It's a wonderful song. So we need to wrap up now for today. Next week we'll be back with Noah, and next week I'll be asking you to put your reporter hats on, okay? Your reporter hats. You'll understand. We got some writing to do. Also, remember, send me any pictures. If you want to send a little video, a shout out, that would be great. We would love to see you. So we'll be back next week. All right, let's end with prayer, shall we? Here we go. Loving God, we know you will be with us during our stormy times. We thank you for your love of us and for making us your covenant people. Amen. Love you all. Hugs. See you next week.